Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, peeps. This one, we've got a state banquet coming up, guys, and I have done so much homework today on this video. In fact, I've been working on it for a few days, but it's been more like in my mind. And then we're going to talk emerald tiaras because I want to lay a case before you. State banquets coming up, German Chancellor's coming over, and I would like to present my case as to why I fantasize and I like to believe that the Vladimir tiara may make an appearance, or potentially the Brazilian aquamarine, or Queen Camilla recently wore it's called a Coco Schnick style tiara, the one that Eugenie wore for her wedding. Lots of things to talk about today. So I don't know how long this is going to go on. One of the things I've been doing a lot of homework on is the Vladimir tiara, and it's actually really difficult to get to the bottom of intricacies and questions that I've had about this for a long time. And I have discovered some things that are new. And I'm also going to present my case as to why I don't believe that Meghan ever wanted to wear the Coco Schnick that Eugenie wore. I firmly believe that Meghan wanted the Vladimir tiara. And we shall come to all of that. You might have noticed I've got these earrings. No, they're not emerald. I don't think they are. I bought them in Jib yesterday. There's like little second-hand shops up this little arcade where I got the Chinese thing, but it was a different shop. There's a whole load of these little shops. Anyway, these are from Morocco, $5.99. And I thought, I went in to go and see if I could find a big picture frame to paint gold from the second-hand lady. And she didn't have any. So I went to there's a Moroccan one at the end, and I saw these, and they were really, really striking. So I thought, and as it's just such a coincidence, or maybe I just saw them because I've been thinking about emerald tiaras. So, I mean, I have been doing research into Foreign and Commonwealth Office protocols and diplomacy involving state banquets and diplomatic receptions, and why members of the royal family a lot of the time wear white dresses to these state banquets and why they wear other colours. I know the media tell us, you know, oh, it's a sweet nod to this and a sweet nod to that. I don't just feel like going, stop going on about your sweet nods. But there are reasons, you know, they do reflect colours and things. So I looked up the last time there was a state banquet for the German, I don't know if it was a German Chancellor then. I'm not that up on German hierarchy and policy. But the Queen wore a teal dress. The late Elizabeth II wore a teal dress, gorgeous dress. And she wore the Brazilian tiara, I believe. Or it could have been the Vladimir, actually. The late monarch loved the Vladimir tiara. Now, the thing with the Vladimir tiara is, being a Romanov jewel, which I'll come to, and that's where all my homework came from, it's more of a crown. I was looking up what the difference between a diadem and a tiara and a crown is. Now, I think diadem is just a loose term. Diadem is supposedly a complete circlet, and it's bejeweled. So it would be more of a crown. Well, the Vladimir's not completely all the way round, but it's also not a semicircle. It actually goes quite a long way round the back of the head. Whereas a lot of other tiaras, that they are really a semicircle, like a headband. And I genuinely believe that Meghan, I don't even think that anybody ever sort of showed her the option and said, you could have the Vladimir. I think she just was aware of it from TV and magazines and pictures. I think she'd seen it and she thought, that's the one I want. And it's really, really interesting, the history of this tiara. Really interesting. There is something with the Vladimir tiara. Oh, it's going to blow your socks off when we come to that part. I couldn't believe it when I read it, and I thought, whoa. Anyway, now I've made loads of notes here because I have done so much research. What is the point of the state banquet, the upcoming state banquet? Well, it's at the request of the Foreign and Commonwealth Office. It's Germany. I looked into what I went on the Foreign and Commonwealth Office website to see what this is all about. And it's all about the usual, you know, they talk about immigration, security, stuff like that, security. And there's a little bit of a mention about China. I thought, oh, right. Well, I mean, most of the time, every country's got a problem with China, haven't they? Or Russia. It's either Xi or Putin. One of them being naughty, naughty boys. You mark my words, Brian. I know you're watching. Well, apparently, there's a bit of a doodah going on with China at the moment over something called... I mean, I've got to get this right because it's a specific thing. It's like it's a rule. You all know about the tariff thing. Well, in retaliation, China has a list of rare earth elements. Now, we all know that the planet Earth has lots of rare elements in it. I mean, we get them in tiaras and jewellery and shit like that. People invest in gold, silver, copper, platinum, uranium, plutonium. Well, apparently there's a whole list of these rare earth items. I never heard of any of them. And China has just added 5 of them to the list. Apparently, I found out, 91% of rare earth elements come from China. Now, yes, of course, gold, platinum, silver, blah, 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 all the usual suspects. They're in demand. But in this day and age, with everything electric cars and electric this and solar panels and computers and mobile phones and blah, 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 now there are these other commodities that have suddenly become in, when I say suddenly, I mean over the last sort of 30, 40 years. I'm sorry if you're wobbling a bit. The boat's been bloody moving all day long. We've had these horrible winds. Anyway, there are these new rare earth elements. And China's imposing rules. I didn't actually go as far as to look into all the rules. Let's just take my word for it. There's a bit of a ding-dong going on between the European Union and China. Okay, so that's what this shit is all about. Now, I will just name those rare elements. One is called holmium, which is magnetic. Just putting it briefly. Erbium is another. Thulium or thulium. Europium and ytterbium. Now, I googled all of these rare elements to see have they got any connection to tiaras, because I don't give a fuck about anything else. I'm really sorry. I know I'm shallow, I'm stupid. Boffin I am not. Scientist I am not. Well, there is absolutely no connection to any of these rare elements except one, which is connected to, you guessed it, beryl, emeralds and aquamarines. So I'm thinking, money's on. We're down, people. Queen Camilla already wore the is it Coco Schnick, the style that you describe it as? The Greville tiara, basically. And I will lay my case before you, people. I can hear some of you already in the comments saying, no, it was definitely the one Eugenie wore. No, I don't think so. So, I'm going to tell you why. So it is holmium. Can be found in emeralds. Now, some of you have been with me for a long time know that I collect very, very, very rare and unusual weird stones. Not necessarily emeralds, rubies, sapphires, well, corundum, beryl, stuff like that. I've got some pretty rare specimens. In fact, I think my daughter swiped them all on her last visit and I haven't seen them since. I've been looking for them today because those of you guys in California, you know which stone I'm going to say, don't you? I'm going to give everybody in California a chance to name the gemstone connected with California, because I've got 2 of them. Yes, I have. And I've been looking into it. I've always been kind of fascinated with this story, so I'll come to that. So of all these rare earth elements, holmium, that's the one. So I went on the GIA website. Well, I just Googled it. You know, what connection does it have to beryl, emeralds, aquamarine? And yes, the Gemological Institute of America, the GIA, which is a university in Carlsbad, California. Basically, if you have a stone and you want it not just appraised, you want the world's best gemologists to put it under scrutinize it and create a certificate telling you exactly what it is, its exact carat, photograph, description, full thing. If you want a certificate like that, you send it to Carlsbad. I've sent a couple of stones to Carlsbad before. Both came back as what's that? Oh, spinel. Both came back as spinel. One was a 9-carat spinel, lab grown, that my daughter found in the middle of the road when we were walking home, and it has a big chunk cut out of it. In fact, I had a photograph of it. Do you know, I should have looked at that because I actually saw the certificate itself recently. Now these drawers are like 3 or 4 foot deep. Anyway, you'll have to take my word for it. I'll try and dig it out for the next live and I'll show you the certificates. They're really comprehensive. Why would anybody send it there? Well, there are lots of gem institutes all over the world. Carlsbad it's about $60-ish per stone you want assessed. And if you've got a decent sized stone and you believe it's got a good value, just like a loose stone, I don't know if they do set jewellery. Once they've certified it and said, yes, that's definitely natural corundum, sapphire, ruby, whatever, the value of it goes exponentially high because they are the highest thought of in the world, or they always used to be back in my day. So I looked it up and my favourite Gemological Institute of America came up, and they had got an emerald, and it had like a citrine line through the middle, and they'd done a full geological report on it, gemological, sorry, and they had discovered, this is pretty recently, that yes, holmium. It contains holmium. So there are elements of holmium in there. So, is China going to be interested in crashing the state banquet with Germany to pluck emeralds out of a tiara? No, of course not. But royals being diplomatic, well, would it be shit-stirry of them to wear an emerald tiara? Or would it be a really good idea? I think it would be a really good idea. So if anybody's watching, because Queen Camilla clearly watches, otherwise she wouldn't have worn the Coco Chanel, would she? She heard us. She heard us, people. We want to see the big bling come out. Plus, I just know how much it pissed Magsy off. So the Vladimir, which I think would just look fabulous on Catherine. I really do. That, or actually, I'd quite like to see Camilla in the Vladimir, because of course Camilla's in the hierarchy at the moment. She is the Queen and Catherine is the Princess of Wales. So I think it'd be rather spectacular to see Camilla in the Vladimir and Catherine in the Brazilian aquamarines. I think that would oh please make it come true. God, you've granted so many of our wishes over Megsy and the royal family. Please, just one more. Right, so I was thinking that, like, when they wear green, it's supposed to mean hope, fresh beginnings, that sort of thing. And obviously you want a green tiara to go with it, wouldn't you? So then, while I was on the GIA website, I suddenly thought, I wonder if there's any jewellery with gems from outer space. Well, yes and no. Yes, there is. There's some, you can get iridium rings. Oh, it's getting a bit nippy now. I'll put my jacket here. You can get some stuff, you know, that come in on meteorites. And they have actually analysed meteorites that have come in with peridot. And they've compared them to peridots found on planet Earth. And apparently there are differences. And only, you know, the Carlsbad people, the university there, the laboratory, would notice them, and I forget what they are. I mean, I'm sure it's something really fancy and really, really cool. But I can't fucking tell you at the moment. You'll have to look that one up yourself. And then it reminded me, of course, of 2 of the stones that I have. People in California, have you named the state stone of California? It is the benitoite. Now, bonitoite is gorgeous, and it's a story that has always fascinated me. It's from the Bonito range, and there's a river there. I think it's about halfway between California and I think San Francisco. I'm not sure. I mean, it's really rural, and there's a mine there today. You can go to the bonitoite mine, and you just pay a few dollars, and you can spend the day there panning and digging in the dirt, and it looks like great fun, and I would absolutely love to go. And actually, the 2 specimens that I bought off eBay years ago, I bought them off a lady who had been there and actually mined them herself. And they're actually not a bad size, because bonitoite is generally a very, the specimens that they find these days, if any, are really tiny. And they're kind of worth the double of diamonds, high quality diamonds. They're blue, a gorgeous cornflower blue. And they are, they glow in the dark under a black light. I mean, they really glow like alien. And a really weird thing to me about bonitoite is it was discovered sometime around 1907. I'm going to get the guy's name, because there's been much debate as to who discovered it. James Marshall Conch, 1907. And so my specimens, one of them is sticking out of a little bit of rock, like a bit of granite. I don't know if it is granite, but... And another one I've got there, it's grown out of rock, but it's actually got a bit of the black, like, tube crystal. Oh, what's it called? I've written it down. Yes, neptunite. It's got a bit of neptunite sticking out of it. And I love those specimens because you can see they're natural. They've come out of the ground, you know, they're not polished. And I'm sure my daughter's swiped them. I'll have to ask her if she can dig them out. If she hasn't swiped them, God knows where they are on this boat. So I'm working my way bit by bit, getting organised, getting Command Central sorted. Now, the reason I believe that bonitoite comes from outer space is because it's only found in California, in the Bonito mountain range. And to me, now I couldn't find the website today, because I mean, it was years ago I searched this. I was really into this sort of 2014-ish. And I found a website where someone had, you know, like one of these WordPress websites where someone who had a grandparent who grew up round there had told them childhood stories. And they said that when the fella said, yeah, I mean, he just went and there were like all blue diamonds all over the floor. Billions of them. And of course, it was gold rush era then, wasn't it? Well, you can imagine it all disappeared. Well, this person, it was one of these blogs like, you know, all my grandparents lived through the Great Depression kind of thing. My grandparents were on the, you know, their wagon wheels and stuff. Well, it was like one of them. And this grandparent had said that they were there, and they said when they turned up, there were big lumps of it, and the locals hoofed it off as quick as you like before the authorities came down, or I think it was the Dallas Mine Company or something, who come down and went, whoa, back away, everybody, seal the area off. But by that time, and in this blog, they'd said that there was one old boy who had a great big lump of it on his doorstep that he used to clean his boots to go into the house. A great big blue diamond. Can you imagine, you know, like this? Oh my God, and they were clueless. They had no idea. They had no idea. They thought they were sapphires at first. But I mean, even sapphires, I mean, God knows, perhaps that's where some old money in America comes from. And I wonder if some of you guys have got stories to tell from grandparents or parents. If you have, please let me know. I would love to hear them. And we could do a whole American night, you know, whether you're, is it the Mayflower, the ship, whether your grandparents are there or were on the wagon wheels, or if any of your relatives ever knew anyone like Billy the Kid or Sundance. They reckon Sundance and Butch survived, didn't they? They weren't killed in Bolivia after all that. And I totally believe that. I'm really down for that story. Any of you guys know anybody, you know, any of those American legends, or were anywhere near the Bonito mountain range, please email me and let me know. We can do a live, we can do a pre-record. I am obsessed with this type of thing. Why is it bonitoite is only found there? They found things that are similar but ain't quite the same. And my theory is it was a meteorite, came scooched in, landed, and I reckon that's why this fella, what was he called again? James Marshall Conch. I reckon when he was there gold prospecting, I reckon when he just happened, he was camping, he just happened to go over a bit of a hill, and I mean, it was just sparkling. And I seem to recall the story is that he saw them at night. I mean, I don't know if they were fluorescent, and that's how he could see them. And there's a river that goes down there as well. And I think these are at the southern part, that the whole mine is at the southern part of the river. Fascinating story, fascinating. And I think it's quite safe to go there. You know, it's not like some remote silver mine, you know, the hills have eyes and all that sort of shit. I think it's actually quite safe. And it looks like loads of fun. I saw a video on it today. Oh my God, I've done hours and hours of research. I haven't even come to the Vladimir tiara. So jewellery from outer space. If you ever see a piece of jewellery that's got genuine bonitoite in it, firstly, it'll cost a fucking fortune. It will be a really small little stone as well, because they don't come that big. Because no one tracked down that grandpa with his doorstep. But then you're most likely, in my opinion, no one at the GIA, Gemological Institute, have never made this claim. Nobody else that I've ever seen on the internet has ever made this claim. It's just my personal opinion. I believe that bonitoite originated from outer space and that it was a huge meteorite, most likely, that came down in the days of the gold rush, way before the internet. Obviously they had telephones, they had telegrams, they had newspapers, but I mean, it was quite difficult to get word around. And being a lot more rural in those days, less witnesses for such an event. How astonishing. And that makes the state gem, the state of California, bonitoite, even more spectacular in my eyes. I mean, a lot of gemstone type things like, Tanzanite comes from the foot of Kilimanjaro, and they reckon that's the only place that you get the really, really good stuff. Right, let's get to that Vladimir tiara now, shall we? And a shocking comparison with Meghan Markle. And I do believe she wanted it. I'll argue my case now why I don't believe it was the one Eugenie wore. The one Eugenie wore was a Greville tiara. Mrs. Greville, Margaret Greville, she was the daughter of a brewer. I do know that much. And fabulously wealthy. I think she was American, actually. She made friends with Queen Mary. This, of course, would have been around dodgy time as far as being a Romanov was concerned. And Mrs. Greville had lots and lots and lots of jewels, tiaras. And Queen Mary, she would gift Queen Mary a lot of them. And I think when Margaret Greville died, I think she left them all. I don't know if she died before Queen Mary or not, but she either left them all her jewels in her will to Queen Mary or to the Queen Mother, because the Queen Mother then became very, very close friends. And Camilla frequently wears a lot of Greville jewels. And the Coco Schnick emerald, that's one of them. Now, when was it that she, because I did make a note of this. Yeah, Margaret Greville commissioned it in 1919 by Boucheron, which was a French, so nothing to do with Russia. But I'll tell you why I think it was a little bit around a dodgy time. I'm thinking, because the late monarch, Queen Elizabeth II, used to refer to Queen Mary's jewels as Granny's chippings, because Queen Mary was not only very well known for collecting all kinds of spectacular jewels and retrieving jewels from her own family line, such as the Cambridge emeralds and stuff. She was big into redesigning jewellery, having it all picked apart by jewellers. Now, there may be many reasons that she did that. She may have done it because of fashion and she wanted to design her own jewellery. Or it may be that she had relatives from Russia who turned up and basically their main currency were the jewels they ran with their lives. And Mary wanted to help them out, but she didn't want to be seen wearing recognisable Russian jewellery. So perhaps she'd go to Garrard's and say, oh, could we pluck the stones out and redesign it a little bit? And maybe even that would be a bit too close to home. So she might have a friend called Margaret Greville and go round to tea and say, you know, I've got to, not exactly fence or launder, but I've got to disguise. I need to come up with a plausible story as to where I got these jewels from. Just a guess. Again, That's just my theory and opinion. So the one that Eugenie wore on her wedding day was apparently commissioned in 1919 by a French jeweller, Boucheron. Nothing to do with Russia, nothing officially. And what the excuse that was given at the time to Meghan was that she couldn't have the tiara that she wanted because it was of Russian origin and they couldn't be sure of its, they used the word providence, or is it provenance? Now, perhaps there is another tiara that but then why would they show Meghan another tiara, you know, if it wasn't on offer? Unless, like Omid Scobie described it as a great underground vault where you'd walk past a ton of tiaras. But the story I've always heard is that she was shown 4 or 5 tiaras and none of them were that. Either of them. None of them were that. So I'm thinking Meghan saw the Vladimir and thought, I'm a queen. I want to be a queen and I want that. And it's interesting because jewellery, I believe, certain types of personality are attracted to certain jewels. Now, the one with the Russian connection is the Vladimir, of course, and the person who commissioned that once upon a time said, oh, it's a shame the rest of the royal family weren't all killed in a train crash that actually did happen. That was our big chance to grab the Russian throne. Interesting, isn't it? Oh, yes, she did. So that's where it's taken a lot of homework to figure out who's who and what's what of a very small portion of the Romanov family tree. Now, there are 2, if anybody else looks this up, there are 2 Grand Duchess Maria Pavlovna of Russia. There's the elder and the younger, and I didn't find that out after 2 hours. I'm looking at these stories thinking, well, they kind of look the same, you know, all in those old black and white photographs. The women themselves actually look the same, so. And I'm thinking, why has this woman got 2 completely different life stories? I don't understand this. So I can watch a video about this one, that one. I'm going back to the wiki page. And then, idiot that I am, I finally realised that one was called the Elder, and the Elder, that's the one we're talking about. The elder Grand Duchess Maria Pavlovna of Russia, also known as the grandest of the Grand Duchesses. Who does that sound like? I mean, this woman was an actual Grand Duchess. But I mean, the grandest of the Grand Duchesses sounds a lot like Megsy, doesn't it? Now, apparently, the tiara was commissioned in 1874 by Bolin. And Bolin, never heard of them before. Of course, I'd heard of Fabergé, but apparently Bolin was huge in Russia. I think it was, I think it was Swedish. Or I think the guy who ended up running it was Swedish. It might have started in Russia. But they were the major Russian crown jewelers for the imperial crown. And then their biggest competitor came along later was Fabergé, you know, with the eggs and all that sort of stuff. So 1874, and this one does have, it is Russian. It is Russian. Now, so she was the older one. I've done a family tree, and this is the easiest way I can explain it. Like, if we liken these people to the current situation with Charles and Camilla, and Charles has 2 sons, and they have 2 wives, or wife each, and they have their own children. Okay, so if we think of Alexander II of Russia as King Charles. Now, he had quite a few sons. Yeah, he had a load of kids, but let's pretend, just to keep it easy, that he had 2 sons. He had Alexander, who would ultimately become Alexander III, and he had Vladimir. And Alexander's married to Dagmar. She's Danish princess, and the sister of one of our Queen Alexander. And Vladimir's married to Pavlona. Now, oh yeah, Pavlona. Pavlovna. Now, if we think of Dagmar and Alexander as Catherine and William, and Vladimir because Vladimir and Pavlovna as Meghan and Harry. Well, apparently, Alexander III and his entire family were on a train and it crashed. It derailed and it was horrific. 21 people were killed. Alexander III. So think of William and Catherine and all of their children on a train, crashes, derails. Not Alexander, Dagmar, they were fine, and all of their children were fine. Their eldest son being Nicholas, who would become, you know, the Tsar, the last one, okay? So this is all way before that. I think this was actually while Alexander II was still on the throne. So we've got Alexander II, the Tsar of Russia, and he's got two sons. Just think of two sons, and they've got two wives. And the train crash was called, I've written it down. Oh, I'm not very organised, am I? It's a bloody train crash thing on. I know I wrote it. I definitely wrote it down. Maybe I wrote it on the family tree. Oh, I did. It was called the Borky train crash. B-O-R-K-I. Borky train crash. So, can you imagine that the heir to the Russian throne, his wife, and all his children are on a train that derails and crashes? Well, what do you think the sister-in-law said? I've got a quote here. She said, oh, I really need a pad for this. Oh, here we are. She said, we shall never have such a chance again at the throne. Now, who was it who said just a plane crash away? And this woman, this Pavlovna, she was the one who first had the Vladimir tiara. She said the same thing as Meghan. Now, isn't that interesting that two women would say such a thing? One has had I think it was a wedding gift actually, had the tiara commissioned. And the other one, I believe, wanted that tiara. And they both said the same thing. There was a brother in between them, but he died when he was 21. So I think Vladimir was the next in line after Alexander. And then it would have been Vladimir and Pavlovna's children that would have taken on. Well, I mean, ultimately, they would have ended up being the last Tsar and Tsarina. Because after Alexander III, of course, it was Nicholas and Alex and their children. And we all know the story of the Romanov murders. But isn't it interesting that two women attracted to the same piece of jewellery? Of course, the late monarch loved that piece of jewellery and wore it frequently. And I believe that Elizabeth wore it a lot, not just because of its beauty and its elegance, but because it's a very regal thing, which is another reason that I believe Megsy wanted to wear that one for the wedding. I don't believe that it was the modern Greville kokoshnik. It's just called kokoshnik because it's, you know, it's the Russian traditional headband style. It's got fuck all to do with Russia. It's nothing to do with Russia. And they distinctly said at the time that the tiara Meghan wanted had dodgy Russian connections. Well, I mean, that just could be palace speak for you. You want to wear the bloody what? Oh, well, why not be done with it and wear the fucking George IV diadem? You know, the one that's on the stamps. Just, I bet she wanted, oh my God, can you imagine if she asked to wear that one? Oh, I wouldn't put it past her. Oh, it'd suit me just nice. I'd be the Queen of America, Queen of planet Earth. If she watches, I tell you what, if she watches these videos, she's going to be straight down to the Benito Mountain, isn't she? She'll have the mine closed for the day. She'll get her kids, get digging, find me some Benitoite. I want a big outer space sparkly crown. Oh, seriously, I mean, I'm kind of fascinated. I haven't mentioned it in a while. I'm really into gemology. And of course, I was attracted to these because I'm just like fucking Cleopatra. I'm a queen, Megsy. Look, I've got a throne and a palace. Oh, yeah, what else was there? Yeah, I'd love to have some jewellery from outer space. I've got some volcanic stuff. I bought some obsidian. I bought like these, they're like pearls in the shape of pearls. I mean, you can get it in any old shape. And I bought like these Egyptian clips, and I was going to get into jewellery making, but then I got waylaid, you know, with life and stuff. I might do something like that over Christmas. You never know. So let me just check all my notes. Oh yeah, there was something else. So we've got Pavlovna, who's you know, made a bit of a rude remark about a train crash. I mean, most family members would go, "Oh my God, is everyone all right? Oh, thank God." Not, oh, shucks. That was our big chance to grab the throne. On reflection, I bet she did have a second thoughts. Anyway, now how did it end up going from her to royal family? Well, she didn't sell it herself. She had a daughter called Grand Duchess Eleanor. And she's the one who, you know, they had the revolution and all the Romanovs had to leave. And I think Pavlovna might have been the last Romanov to actually leave Russia. I think I read that today. Or I might have been looking at the younger one. I don't know, because I was getting a bit... in the end, I just thought, just do the damn video, Fiona. Just do the damn video. Or you're going to go down so many rabbit holes. You'll be Christmas in a minute. Anyway, yeah, Eleanor and her husband, I think he was a Greek prince, they had to go and live, like, not in slums or anything, but obviously they had to leave Russia, and then jewellery was getting sold. So it was in her care that the jewellery got sold. But what I found very interesting that I didn't know was that one of her daughters was Princess Marina, who of course became the Duchess of Kent, the mother-in-law of the Duchess of Kent, who's just passed away. Small world, isn't it? Oh, sorry, I just kicked you right in the... Small world. But my theory about the Grevilles is, I mean, I suppose... Yeah, okay, I suppose. The kokoshnik that Eugenie wore could have... They could have been Russian stones. They could have been plucked from impoverished relatives fleeing from Russia. Queen Mary's bought them on the sly, goes to Mrs. Greville for tea, says, "Can you make out that you gave me these? I'm going to get Garrard to knock them up in a nice headband." I always felt there was something strange going on like that, because why did Margaret Greville just leave all of her jewels to the royal family? I've never really understood that. I know I don't think she had children herself, but I mean, she could have donated them to a museum. Yes, she might have wanted them worn. But I just always found it a little bit odd. Firstly, that she was such best friends with Queen Mary and then with the Queen Mother, because although I don't believe that they didn't get on with each other, I always got the impression they were two very different women. Very different women. It's almost like Margaret was the family fence. Not that the royal family deal in stolen jewels. I'm not implying that, you know. I'm just saying, from a diplomatic point of view, it would be tactless, to say the least, for Queen Mary to be seen in, you know, maybe a big Tsarina's crash helmet, diamond encrusted crash hat at a state banquet, and everybody be like, "But they were your family and they got murdered, how can you possibly?" So it's more tactful to have it broken down. Now, I think that, what was she called? Maria Fedora, or I can't remember how to pronounce her name, but Alexander II's Tsarina. She had a huge, you know how Russian headdress can be? And that had, I think they were aquamarines, and they broke that up and it was auctioned into, it was made into lots of different pieces of jewellery. And I believe Elizabeth Taylor, her, I think it was an aquamarine necklace, it could have been emerald, and she had like a necklace with a thing, earrings. I think there's a famous photograph of her in a swimming pool with a parrot with the whole full set. I think that was actually the Tsarina's. That was part of the Tsarina's huge headdress. So sounds like Russia's got quite a few rare earth minerals. Maybe they should do some deals with them instead of China's being all tricky about it. Oh, hang on a minute, Russia. Oh, bit of a sticky wicket guy in charge of that one, isn't there? It's awful, isn't it? You get these massive countries and these very, very bossy people running them. They should all be run by kings and queens and czars and czarinas, in my opinion. And the only reason I say that, it's got nothing to do with geopolitics. It's just because I want to see more fucking tiaras out there. Let's pray together, people, for Catherine and Camilla and Sophie and Anne. Pull out the big guns. Come on, guys, pull out the big guns. I know Germany's a smaller country. It's not like if they were doing a Putin or a Z or President Trump. I just want to see them. I want to see them. I'm sick and tired of seeing the same tiaras, fabulous as they are. I just want to see more bling. How about you? Thank you very much for listening to my ramblings and bullshit. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and may your God be with you.